And let's keep that raucous applause going for your next storyteller, Mr. Dave Nelson.
Perfect. Okay, guys, dogs in the 70s were different than they are now. They ran free for the most part. Nobody picked up after them, and they had balls. That meant for 6-year-olds like me and my friends, we had to deal with roaming beasts that shat everywhere and thought the block belonged to them. To get to my friend Andy's, I had 2 choices. I could go through a junkyard ruled by a German shepherd named King. The minute you stepped foot on that junkyard, King wanted to eat you. But if you made it to the other side, as soon as you got off his property, he stopped in his tracks and he gave a little woof, which I translated into, "You, sir, have my respect, but we shall meet again." You could also go around the apartment complex to get to Andy's, but you might run into Boogie, a Doberman pinscher every bit as tall, but with no moral guiding code. He would find you and he would finish you. So my friend Jeff and I are over at my house and we want to go to Andy's. Why? Because he has a pool, built-in slide, diving board, everything. Well worth risking your life for. And what we do is we call up Andy and we say, "Andy, take a look out your window," and we would know if Boogie had gotten out because Boogie was often behind a fence. But we had called Andy 3 times and he hadn't picked up, which to us meant everything must be fine. So we head off around the apartment complex, and we're doing really well. We get to the houses. We've got about 6 to go. And did I mention before that nobody cleaned up after their dogs? I was an expert on dog poop, the best in the neighborhood. I could look at a pile. I could judge by the consistency and the size and the color. I could tell you the size of the dog, how long that poop had been out in the air, and I claim to be able to determine the breed. And Jeff says, we find this big pile of poop right there. And Jeff says, "That's not Doberman, is it?" And I say, "Look at the long, narrow turd. That's Doberman." And right then, we hear a growl behind our backs. And Boogie is behind us. And Jeff takes off running, screaming in a straight line. And I freeze, which is a darn good thing because that dog zooms by me. I look up into white fangs. I smell its breath. I see red flaming eyes. That's right. That's how I remember it, red flaming eyes. Now, if you've ever seen a monster movie from the 80s or the 70s, what happens to the person who's running? They fall. Every time. So the monster can catch them. And Jeff falls. He falls. I can't move, and Jeff is about to be eaten. And this is where the story changes depending upon how much I've drank, and I've drank nothing tonight, so I'll tell you the straight story. In some of my stories, Jeff gets bit right in the butt hard. And an ambulance may be called, and you may need to surgically reattach Jeff. But in truth, none of that happened. The dog just towered over him, growling and spitting, and I could only guess that Jeff's crying and whimpering and cowering was so impressive that Boogie felt fulfilled. Until he turned back and faced me. And I was too frozen to cower. I was crying on the inside. And Boogie walks up to me, and I'm like this, and Boogie licks my hand to see what I tasted like. And I knew this next breath would be my last. And then I hear in the distance, Boogie! Boogie! And the dog turns and runs away. And nobody's going to get eaten. And I'm catching my breath and I'm still frozen. And Jeff gets up and he says, tugs my arm. He says, are we still going swimming? I said, yeah. And I'm peeing in Andy's pool. He said, me too. It was the best revenge we could think of. Thank you.